All right, we're going to dive into a map that shows a hidden layer of power all across America. It's a grid of control you've probably never seen before, and it quietly shapes, well, just about everything, from law enforcement to the very idea of local authority. Okay, so what exactly are you looking at right now? At first glance, it might look like some kind of abstract art, maybe even a pattern you'd see under a microscope. And this is the map, this wild honeycomb pattern that seems to be draped all across the US. But no, these aren't cities, they're not cell phone towers. This is literally a picture of power. The big question is, what kind of power are we really seeing? Okay, first things first, let's try and decode this mysterious honeycomb and figure out what it's really showing us. The first thing to get is that these aren't physical things you could see from a plane. Nope. They're invisible boundaries that define local legal power. You gotta think of each and every one of these circles as its own little self-contained bubble of authority. So to really get this, we've gotta unpack a key idea from the source material. It's time to decode what are known as juridical spheres. So what is a juridical sphere? Well, it's basically just a zone of local legal control. Imagine every single county courthouse in the country shooting its legal authority outwards in a perfect circle. That's exactly what you're looking at. And it's not just some random size. We're talking a very, very specific number here. 10 miles. Each circle you see on that map has a 10-mile radius, with a county courthouse sitting right smack in the middle. And when you zoom out and look at the whole country, this incredible pattern emerges. The source material calls it a constellation of micro-sovereignties, and you can see why. It's all packed together out east where the counties are smaller, but then it gets super spread out as you move west. You're literally seeing how local government grew across the continent. You know, this map actually explains something you've probably wondered about before. Like, why can a sheriff chase someone, but the second they cross the county line? Game over. This is it. It all boils down to intramural jurisdiction, this idea that legal power only exists inside the walls of that specific county. It is fundamentally locked inside these invisible lines. Okay, so hold that thought, all that stuff about local legal power, because now we're going to take a sharp turn into something that feels totally different, but trust me, it's all connected. Let's talk about the Uniform Military Grid. This is the Military Grid Reference System, or MGRS for short. And you can see right away, it's the total opposite of that messy organic map of counties we were just looking at. This thing is a perfectly standardized grid that the military uses to chop up the entire planet for logistics and tactical planning. And the scale here? Whoa! We've gone from these little 10-mile circles to these massive 100-kilometer by 100-kilometer squares. It's a completely different beast. And here's the kicker. This grid is completely artificial. It's a clean overlay. It doesn't care about state lines. It doesn't care about county lines. For the military, it's all about smooth, predictable logistics and making sure everyone is on the same page, or in this case, the same grid square. Okay, so we've got these two totally different systems. One's all organic and legal, the other's artificial and military. So what happens when we put them side by side? Well, we find this really unlikely but totally fascinating structural analogy. This really brings us to the big question, right? What in the world does a local courthouse have to do with a military grid? I mean, on the surface, nothing. But when you look at the structure, turns out they're practically twins. This is where it all snaps into focus. Just look at this breakdown. Each one has a center of authority, right? A courthouse for one, a tactical HQ for the other. Each has a clear boundary, that 10-mile legal reach versus a 100-kilometer block. And each one has a specific job. One's for legal processes, the other's for tactical coordination. You see, they are both, at their core, grids of control. And if you need one sentence to wrap it all up, the source material just nails it. The Uniform Military Grid is, and I quote, a paramilitary analog to your juridical spheres. They're just two different languages describing the exact same core idea, how to map out and control a space. So why should we even care about this weird comparison? Well, it gets down to the core difference and the surprising similarity between two big ideas, jurisdiction and coordination. Think of it like this. Jurisdiction, that's all about legal authority. It answers the question, who's in charge here and by what law? Then you have coordination. That's about operational stuff. It asks, where is everybody and how do we get them to work together? One is about the rule of law, the other is all about logistics. And that's the big takeaway, really. You've got two completely different systems built for totally different reasons, but they share one core concept. They're both about creating these bounded, mapped, and centered nodes of control. They're just two ways humans have come up with to draw lines on a map to organize power and manage complexity. And that kind of leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? Once you see these grids, the legal one, the military one, you start to see them everywhere. Think about it. Broadcast areas for radio stations, sales territories for a company, school districts. Our whole world is covered in these invisible grids of control, and each one has its own rules and its own boundaries. So the real question isn't just which ones we can see, but how all these overlapping maps are shaping the way we live.